Hello, this is Roz welcoming you to the 2085th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper. Dateline the 16th of Feb 2017. This week's readers are me, Roz, and Philip. Now, I have to explain to you why there is just the dynamic duo of Roz and Philip tonight, because Ali and John, your usual Team C regulars, are sunning themselves on holiday, lucky them. But due to sickness, we are that dynamic duo of myself and Philip, and we will endeavour to bring you this week's news between us. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Pree, Fernand Brouillon, Harry Brewer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include Boyfriend gets 21 years for brutal attack and Grieving Widower's plea. But before the news, I just have time to tell you that tomorrow's sunrise and sunset times are 7:26 a.m. and 4:51 p.m. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. And if you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 0208 805 6578. She is your listener's representative and is always pleased to hear from you. Now over to Philip, who will read the first item of local news.
Grieving Widower's plea. A grieving widower says he's lost everything after his wife was knocked off her bike and died in a hit and run. Tamas Mizo has stressed the importance of cycle safety measures after Anita Zooks died after the crash in Bounces Road, Edmonton at 1:45 a.m. on Monday, February the 6th. The 30-year-old, who was on her way home from a night shift at Lidl's distribution centre in Ardra Road, got married last March, and the happy couple had planned to honeymoon in Japan. Speaking to the Enfield Independent, Mr. Mez said, "People say I lost my other half, but it feels much worse than that. I lost everything, and I am nothing without Anita. Anita and I had a great life together. We travelled a lot, saw many beautiful places, and spent money on the people we loved. We laughed and cried together. We kept each other on the right path. We shared a concern for the environment and a love of animals. We never stopped saying, 'I love you.' We have no regrets, and I know that Anita left this world with happiness in her heart. If you love somebody, tell them. Say it right now, and do not stop saying it." Anita was the first cyclist to lose her life on London roads this year, but since then a further 2 cyclists and 2 pedestrians have also been killed. Mr. Mez added, "The statistics show 10 London cyclists died last year, but this does not capture the true impact. When we say 10 cyclists died last year in a road collision, it is not precise. We should say that 10 families have come undone." When a hit-and-run driver killed Anita, that was the first tragedy, and another tragedy continues to unfold. She was her father's only child, and one of her mother's 3 children. Her 2 siblings and their families are distraught with grief. Everyone on the streets has to respect the others. From the pedestrians to the hugest truck drivers, only highlighting the problem is not enough. Questioning the mayor and pointing out trying to find a responsible person is not enough. There's a major problem with the transporting culture. Let's come up with solutions. Mr. Mez suggested that preventative measures such as school presentations to highlight the dangers, making sure there is space between vehicles, and reminding people to check their blind spot. On Saturday, protesters took to Trafalgar Square in a campaign by Stop Killing Cyclists. 2 men were arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving and failing to stop at the scene of a collision, and have been bailed until March.
Boyfriend gets 21 years for brutal attack on pregnant partner. The window is still boarded up and a heavy padlock bolts the door to the top flat where a horrific attack took place. The landlord has yet to go back inside the house in Densworth Grove, Edmonton, where Anna Campos, 8 months pregnant, was stabbed in the face, left with multiple facial fractures and severely bruised lungs before her boyfriend, who was responsible for the brutal and frenzied attack, jumped out of the window. Neighbours heard shouting and a loud bang like a car crash before seeing Peter Petrov on the ground below, covered in blood, with shards of glass. Petrov, 31, who attacked his heavily pregnant fiancée so brutally she remains in a vegetative state and is unlikely ever to regain consciousness, was jailed for 21 years at the Old Bailey on Friday after pleading guilty last month to attempted murder. The Bulgarian national, who also given an extended licence of 5 years and issued with a European protection order preventing him from ever entering the country in the EU, where the victim now resides. Passing sentence, the judge commended witness Kerry Keogh, whose bravery at the time of the attack said had saved the life of the victim and her unborn child. He was given a sheriff's reward of £500. Mr. Keogh, a lorry driver who lived opposite the couple, had administered first aid to Petrov and then rushed upstairs to treat his girlfriend. And a neighbour who asked not to be named this week described what happened. He said, "There was a big bang, and then I heard screaming. I ran outside and I saw him on the ground, under the window where he jumped. I said to my neighbour, 'His girlfriend's upstairs,' and then we went upstairs. It was a terrible sight. She was lying on the sofa, and there was so much blood everywhere. There seemed a nice couple. We'd only seen them living there for just 2 weeks. She was from Spain, and I told her I loved paella, and she said she'd teach me how to make it, but she never got that chance. The couple had moved into the flat in Edmonton Green just 2 weeks before the attack, on August the 5th last year. Doctors performed an emergency caesarean section to save the life of the baby boy, who survived premature birth and is now with his grandparents. Detective Inspector Christopher Skelt of Enfield Police Community Safety Unit said, "This has been a truly shocking case. It is incomprehensible to think that a father-to-be could carry out such a violent and horrific attack on his partner when she was 8 months pregnant. I would like to commend the members of the public who were first at this distressing scene, performing first aid on the injured parties, and they called the emergency services. Their quick actions were crucial in getting the victim the medical attention she needed and saving the mother and unborn child's life."
Disgruntled driver in dropped curb dispute. A frustrated driver is challenging an unfair parking fine issued for having his tyre an inch over the line. Christopher Dempson was visiting a friend in Mayfield Crescent, Enfield, when he was ticketed and charged £55. Mr. Dempson left his BMW car in a parking bay by a dipped curb and was fined for parking in a special enforcement area, even though he insists the lines are faded and unclear. The company director, who works at Avalon Kitchen and Bedroom Designs in Chingford, claimed it is frustrating because the council is using a private company who just want their profit. It's not about the fine, it's about the justice. I pay my road tax, but they don't maintain the roads with the money we pay. The line was poorly marked, and when I called the Citizens Advice Bureau, they advised me to contest it. The unsigned ticket was issued to Mr. Dempson's BMW at 8:15 p.m. on a Sunday evening last month. Parking charges can be challenged when the lines are faded or hidden by trees, or the driver fails to see any road markings or signs. Mr. Dempson, aged 28, argues his alleged contravention falls into this category. But when Mr. Dempson spoke to Enfield Council, he was told he still needed to pay. The disgruntled driver claims the council took down the initial pictures taken by the warden because they illustrated his point. He added, "When I called the council, I told them that the only reason they knew about the fine was because of my honesty, as the ticket left on my car was unsigned. When it was the council, they would overturn the unfair charges, but because they're using a private company, they try to get any money they can to cover the costs. I didn't even see the ticket until I got close to the car, as it was so dark. It was a Sunday night, and the council would not have sent anyone out for such a minor thing. The charge on the ticket cited Code 27, which is enforced to prevent dropped curbs from being blocked, but Mr. Dempson maintains he was not obstructing access and had parked. Enfield Council has been contacted for comment.
MP backs debt protection plan. Edmonton MP Kate Ossimer has backed calls for a new scheme to help protect thousands of families being ravaged by debt. She is supporting the Breathing Spaces scheme that would offer people seeking debt advice a 12-month legal protection from mounting interest, the charges and enforcement action. Ms. Ossimer said that the debt often strikes during sudden changes in circumstances, such as job loss or ill health, adding that aggressive action from creditors and pressure to repay at an unaffordable rate can lead families to cut back on everyday essentials, including food, or to take out other expensive loans. The Breathing Space scheme is being supported by the Children's Society and Step Change Debt Charity. It would build on protections offered under the Debt Arrangement Scheme in Scotland, which has been made sure that families sticking to an affordable repayment plan agree with their creditors are not harried or hassled for the duration of that plan. Ms. Ossimer said, "Families in problem debt need time and space to get back on their feet. By providing a period free from additional interest charges and enforcement action, a new breathing space scheme would help families recover their financial situation and put in place a plan to affordably repay their debts. In Edmonton alone, there are an estimated 4,300 children living in families who have fallen into problem debt. Analysis from the Children's Society shows that children in low-income families with multiple debts are more likely to suffer from mental health problems than equivalent families with fewer debts. It can't be right that children's mental health and happiness is suffering as a result of creditors unfairly escalating people's debt problems."
Judo champ Theo inspires pupils. It's not every day that primary school pupils watch their teachers hurled over the shoulder of a Great Britain martial arts champion. Judo pro Theo Spalding McIntosh paid a special visit to Eldon Primary School in Edmonton last week, demonstrating his moves in front of an audience of captivated youngsters. They joined in an intense fitness circuit routine of press-ups, star jumps and leg drives in the assembly hall at the school in Eldon Road as part of the Sports for Schools programme aimed at promoting exercise among young people. The 5 times British judo champion has since left the sport and gone on to mentor young people. Theo showed youngsters medals he won during his 20-year career competing in the World Cup, as well as the Commonwealth Games and European Cup. The 27-year-old told pupils about the difficulties of grasping judo at the age of 6 and explained how determination and continuous practice were key to his success. It was his mother who suggested he take up the sport to keep him out of mischief, and at just 15 he won his first national championship. He encouraged youngsters to pursue a hobby they were passionate about and emphasised the importance of self-belief. Up to 300 infant pupils took part in the fitness sessions on Monday last week and 600 from the juniors the following day. "They absolutely loved the workout," said Natalie Hussain, assistant head of Eldon Juniors and PE coordinator. "Theo was a great inspiration and a key role model to look up to. He explained the benefits of regular exercise and told them it was also about having fun too." After the sessions, pupils were so impressed by the sport that teachers provided a list of judo classes across Enfield.
Lily's a guiding light. Schoolgirl Lily Morgan has proved to be a guiding light in the Girl Guides. The 13-year-old was among 40 guides, as well as adult leaders, saluted for being shining examples of the movement at a glittering awards ceremony at Millfield Theatre in Silver Street, Edmonton last week. The event on Wednesday was hosted by the Jack Petchey Foundation and recognised the achievements of girl guides aged 11 to 25 from units across Enfield, Barnet and Haringey. And Lily, who is a member of the first Enfield Guides, based at St Andrew's Parish Centre in Enfield Town, received a prestigious award for outstanding work in motivating young people. She was nominated by fellow members of her unit for her commitment to group and for the continuously encouraging fellow guides. She was presented with a medallion and a certificate, having already received a cheque for £250, which she used to host a special Wizard of Oz party for her friends and to recruit new members to the guides. The Mayor of Enfield, Bernadette Lepage, was among guests at the special bash. She said, "It was a wonderful evening celebrating guides in Middlesex East, and it was great to hear why each individual won their award. I am truly humbled at the efforts of these young people and their leaders to make a difference. Well done to everyone concerned."
MP in bid to reform law on burial rights. MP David Burrows is hoping a new parliamentary bill will ensure that Enfield's deceased can rest in peace. Mr. Burrows has drawn up proposals for a burial rights reform bill after being contacted by a Southgate family who found out that they could not scatter their grandmother Eileen Purtill's ashes over her late husband's grave because an estranged relative had sole control over the burial plot. The MP for Enfield Southgate is spearheading efforts on their behalf to change the law so that the wishes of the deceased can be respected and not thwarted by family members who own the grave. At present, whoever bought the plot has sole control of it. Marion McDonough, aged 58, Eileen's daughter, contacted Mr. Burrows, and her daughter Claire McDonough, aged 29, of Ullswater Road, said, "This has been such a distressing ordeal for our family. We are unable to fulfill our grandmother's last will and testament, which was to have her ashes scattered on our grandfather's grave. We are also unable to mark our grandfather's grave in the proper way, as we do not own the grave plot under current law. We cannot understand why our mother, who was my grandmother's next of kin, power of attorney, and executor of her will, is not allowed to fulfill my grandmother's wishes. Consequently, neither our grandmother nor our grandfather is able to rest in peace. This law must change." Mr. Burrows wants to see a legally binding system put in place whereby, similar to an organ donor register, a person can state where they want to be buried, and the law prioritises those wishes. He said, "Up and down the country, traumatic disputes are erupting because relatives are unable to fulfil the wishes of a departed loved one. Where there is clear stipulation of desires as to who shall be responsible for the grave, and connected matters, and instructions as to how this is to be done, this must be binding on all parties concerned. The Burial Rights Reform Bill will provide an opportunity to give clarity to relatives who are confused and aggrieved by the opaque laws in relation to funeral and burial arrangements. Our final wishes are arguably our most important. We must therefore reach a conclusion where such wishes are offered clarity and protection by the law. There may be no better way to honour the dead than to give life to their final wishes." The bill is scheduled to return to the House of Commons for a second reading on March the 24th.
Councillor blasts dog owners who train pets to fight using children's play equipment. Thousands of pounds have been paid out in replacing children's park playing equipment vandalised by dogs trained to strengthen their jaws to fight. Chunks missing from park swings, caused by dogs hanging from them by their jaws, has resulted in 53 being replaced over the last 14 months by Enfield Council at a cost of £120 each. Consequently, children have been deprived from using the community playing apparatus, and residents have been urged to inform the council if they witness any offence. Latest incidents have been reported in Edmonton, in Church Street Recreation Ground, Pims Park and Florence Hayes Recreation Ground, and in Bush Hill Park. "This is absolutely abhorrent behaviour," said Daniel Anderson, the council's cabinet member for environment. "It deprives Enfield's children from safe playground equipment, costs taxpayers money, and causes tremendous cruelty to the animals. If anyone has any information on dog owners who are participating in the despicable activity, please contact the relevant authorities immediately. This has to be stopped for the good of our borough." CCTV cameras were installed at 40 Hall Park in 40 Hill, Enfield, in 2014 in a bid to catch people committing this offence. So to report damages to parks or playgrounds, please visit www.enfield.gov.uk and call 101 to report any information to the police, or simply dial 999 in that emergency. To contact the RSPCA to report animal cruelty regarding these or any incidents, visit www.rspca.org.uk or please call 0300 1234 999.
And another animal story now, and the headline is Down in the Valley to Play, and the article is accompanied by two pictures of very happy animals, and there's a picture here of two donkeys being petted by some twin girls, and a big picture of a man stroking a goat. I think it's a goat with a big beard but no horns. Not sure if that's a lady or a man goat. Goat identification, not my strong point, I have to say, but anyway, it looks very nice. And here's the story. Visitors received a warm welcome as they cuddled up to furry friends over the weekend to celebrate Lee Valley Park Farm's 40th birthday bash. Newton, the bearded dragon lizard, was handled with care as youngsters stroked his scaly skin, and donkey siblings Lucy and Lopin enjoyed tasty treats of crunchy carrots. Norbert the sheep stayed out of the cold, but popped up his head to greet guests at a 1970s-themed party at the Farms in Stubbins Hall Lane, Waltham Abbey. Other furry guests who joined the celebration included resident rabbits Gizmo, Lucy and Honey, and pigs Freddy and Lola, as well as chinchillas, ponies, meerkats and goats. Party games and adventure activities included a ride on an inflatable hoop down a dry ski slope, and youngsters were able to make archaeological discoveries of ancient bones buried in Dino Chicken World. It's been a terrific start to our 40th year with a bonanza weekend, said James Broomfield, manager at Lee Valley Park Farms. Families are welcome to continue to celebrate our 4 decades of history with us throughout this week and beyond.
Baker told to clean up its act. Bakers caught using a dirty and rusty blade to cut dough have been fined. The owners of Bakery Naslada in Main Avenue, Bush Hill Park, were ordered to pay out a total of £3,509 for a string of hygiene failings that endangered the health of customers after appearing at Tottenham Magistrates Court on February the 2nd. Enfield Council inspectors found untrained food handlers, flies, bad food management systems and poor cleanliness throughout the premises in December 2015 and ordered the establishment, a family-run bakery, to clean up its act. But when health officials returned for a second visit 6 months later, they found further horrors, including dough being cut with a dirty and rusty DIY blade that was designed to snap off, raw food stored above tomatoes in the chiller, chilled foods including cheese being stored at room temperature, cleaning chemicals stored next to the food, and a fly killer positioned above bread stored ready for delivery. The council prosecuted owner Bizir Mladikov, both of Main Avenue. The three pleaded guilty to 7 breaches of the Food Safety and Hygiene Regulation Act of 2013. They were fined £580, ordered to pay a £29 victim surcharge and £500 costs, £670 ordered to pay a £30 victim charge and another £500 costs. Daniel Anderson, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, said, "We are clamping down on food outlets which cannot or will not keep their premises clean, thereby endangering the health of anyone who could possibly buy their products. Our residents have the right to inspect and expect the food and to be safe and to buy and to eat safely. It is completely unacceptable to keep a food business in a ruinous state of grime and dirt. It shows a cavalier disregard for people's safety and well-being and a fundamental lack of understanding of the importance of food safety and hygiene. I would strongly recommend residents check how clean their favourite food outlet is through the Food Standards Agency website and avoid those establishments with poor quality hygiene standards. Residents can visit www.foodgov.uk to find out how hygienic their food outlets actually are."
Shotgun robbers jailed for security van raids. A shotgun bandit from Enfield who has carried out a string of armed hold-ups on security vans has been jailed for life. Nicholas Wordsworth, aged 42, of Fiona Court, the Ridgeway, and fellow armed robber Mustafa Mirza, aged 48, from Holloway, were both sentenced to life imprisonment at Kingston Crown Court on Friday. The masked pair ambushed security guards, delivering cash to banks and supermarkets across London, Essex, Kent, the Thames Valley and Sussex between February and October 2016, including the NatWest Bank in Green Lane's Palmer's Green on the 28th of July. Dramatic CCTV footage of the robbery released by police can be viewed on the Enfield Advertiser's website. Officers from the Metropolitan Police Flying Squad linked the duo to 7 robberies. Dressed in black, the bandits threatened to shoot guards unless they handed over cash boxes before making off in a getaway car, which was later found abandoned and set ablaze. The 2 men were arrested by armed police officers in November last year when a Honda Accord car, fitted with false number plates in which they were travelling, was stopped in Sandy, Bedfordshire. They were found in possession of a loaded sawn-off shotgun, a gas-powered revolver, several rounds of ammunition, a stun gun, a bulletproof vest, a large hunting knife, masks and a full petrol can. Wordsworth and Mirza had both pleaded guilty to conspiracy to rob, possession of a firearm and ammunition with intent to endanger life, possession of an imitation firearm with intent and possession of a prohibited weapon. Wordsworth, who was ordered to serve a minimum of 7 years and 9 months, admitted all 7 robberies. Mirza, who was ordered to serve a minimum of 7 years and 5 months, admitted his part in 5 of them. He denied that he had had any involvement in hold-ups at the NatWest branch in Eastbourne and at the Tesco Metro in Margate. Speaking after sentencing, Detective Inspector Mark Bedford from the Flying Squad said, "These were well-planned, violent armed robberies, during which both Wordsworth and Mirza terrorised security guards, as well as members of the public going about their daily business, and left them fearing for their lives. In my view, it was only through luck and good fortune that nobody was seriously injured or worse. The sentences mean that 2 extremely violent and dangerous criminals are now behind bars for a considerable time."
Youngsters make net gains. England's netball captain, Amma Agbez, has heaped praise on an Edmonton school after they won a match against an older team in the dying seconds of the match. Amma sent a message of congratulations on Saturday to Cuckoo Hall Academy's Year 6 team following their dramatic 6-5 win over older girls from local rivals Heron Hall, a secondary academy, with the very last throw of the match after being 1-5 down. "Well done," she said. "Seems you did what we England girls couldn't manage against Australia." Amma was referring to a game shown live on the BBC TV when England were trailing to Australia and fought back, only to lose 47-46 in a dramatic finish. Head teacher Sharon Ahmet, who gave the girls a special celebratory lunch last week, said, "We are all thrilled that the England captain has sent her congratulations to the girls to mark this famous result. We are so very proud of the team for winning a match that will go down in school history." The match between Cuckoo Hall and Heron Hall in Nightingale Road, Edmonton, was a real nail-biter, and the team from primary school in Cuckoo Hall Lane, Edmonton, were made up of girls aged 9 to 11, and they were losing 4-5 in the final quarter, but then rallied, drew level, and won with the very final throw. The win comes after Sport England's announcement of £16.9 million of funding for netball, one of the biggest beneficiaries of new cash to help develop grassroots sports. Amma was in the headlines after she hit back after the Guardian newspaper published an article calling netball Britain's least cool ball game. The newspaper singled out the sport as uncool and criticised its many rules. Amma took to Facebook to defend the sport, saying the article was a risk to netball's growing popularity. She used the hashtag #NetballOnTheRise, and this has since been trending on Twitter.
Victoria's ambassadorial role. A woman from Winchmore Hill has been selected as a UK youth ambassador to campaign against extreme poverty and fight for the rights to educate girls in the world's poorest countries. Victoria Eder will be joining a 50-strong contingent from global anti-poverty group The One Campaign, calling on world leaders to take action against inequality. The 25-year-old, who lives in Highfield Road, said she was delighted to become an ambassador and is aiming to galvanise support on global issues from the community and MP for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows. Victoria says her main campaigning priority is to fight for young girls who have been denied an education abroad. She wants to use her voice to push for positive change and raise awareness of the campaign group. Sarah O'Malley, UK Interim Director of One, said they will be campaigning for a fairer world by mobilising in their communities and demanding their MPs and leaders hear their call to end extreme poverty. Focusing on girls' education is central to this, so the youth ambassadors will be fighting to give girls in the world's poorest countries more opportunity to learn and lift themselves out of poverty. The ambassadors will visit Parliament to meet key ministers and lobby support on major issues. The Youth Ambassador programme is in its 4th year, and previous campaigners have made trips abroad, including to the European Parliament and the 2015 G7 summit in Germany.
Home sweet home. Tenants move into first council houses to be built in decades. Delighted tenants moved into a first council house built in Enfield for more than 30 years last week. Dujardin Mews is the initial phase of a Ponders End regeneration project built on the former site of the Alma estate, which has been demolished, making way for the first instalment of 38 townhouses, flats and masonettes. Named after the Enfield-born Olympic equestrian gold medalist Charlotte Dujardin, the first phase aims to regenerate the area and boost the local economy. Former Alma Estate residents Andrew Bailey, Aida Zubar and their 2 young daughters were welcomed into their new home last Thursday by Amit Okenya, the council's cabinet member for housing and housing regeneration. After living on Alma Estate for 27 years, first in a flat and then a masonette, Mr. Bailey said that he felt blessed to be moving into their very first house. He couldn't be in a house like this without the help of the council, he said. It's really important people have this type of opportunity and we need to respect it for what it is. Mr. Okenya declared the first phase of the regeneration project a significant moment. He said that the redevelopment was a clear sign that Enfield was committed to building and investing millions of pounds in improving housing in the borough. Developments such as Dujardin Mews and the Alma Estate will increase our stock of social housing, help tackle the housing crisis locally and provide good quality housing for residents, he said. Mr. Okenya also added, these regeneration schemes bring jobs to the area, helping rejuvenate some of the poorest parts of the borough and provide benefits that run far beyond simply providing new homes. We are proud of these Enfield schemes and we are committed to improving the quality of life for all of our residents now and in the future.
Mike's 50-year medal for the appliance of science. Boffin Professor Mike Wren's illustrious career went under the microscope this week when he was awarded a prestigious and rare medal from the professional body for scientists to which he belongs. And the retired medical microbiologist from Fords Grove, Winchmore Hill, couldn't have been more delighted than if his beloved Enfield town had thrashed local rivals Barnet in the FA Cup. The eminent professor, a regular at home games at the Queen Elizabeth Stadium in Donkey Lane, who was also a supporter of the old Enfield FC from 1978 until its demise, received the medal from the Institute of Biomedical Sciences. It marked 50 years as a member of the body and recognised the 68-year-old's distinguished career in the field of medical microbiology, which involves diagnosing infections and infectious diseases. During that time, he worked at North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, as well as the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead and University College Hospital in central London. He won the Greenfield Medal for original research in 1978 for a paper on anaerobic bacteria that can only survive in the absence of oxygen, and has published other research papers, as well as being the joint author of a book on clinical microbiology. He taught and trained both junior doctors and scientists and was made an MBE in 2007 for services to biomedical science, as well as a visiting professorship. I was absolutely thrilled to receive the 50-year medal. It was a great honour, he said. I'm now a member of the Institute's History Committee and a member of the Medical Sciences Historical Society, as well as the Institute's honorary librarian. So I still keep myself busy, he added. And there's a big picture of him with a subtitle, Thrilled and Honoured. Professor Mike Wren is presented with his medal by Mike Sergis, President of the Institute of Biomedical Sciences.
Families add emotional tribute to a wall of hope. Family members from the same church who all lost a loved one to a brain tumour put up plaques to mark the money raised in their honour. Since 2005, 7 members of St Monica's Church in Palmer's Green died of the disease, but the tragedy inspired by their families to come together. Sue Blasotta died in November 2010, aged 42. Lena Ferrero died in 2009, aged 74, followed by her son, Franco, in 2013, aged 55. Jackie McGovern died in 2013, just aged 42, and Vittorio Coletta died in 2005, aged 72. Anthony Burke died in 2011, tragically at the age of 34, and Patrick Ruan died in 2009, aged 63. These 6 families put up plaques to celebrate the fact that their fundraising has paid for 1 or more days of vital research on the Wall of Hope of Queen Mary University, London. Charity, in Sue's name, was launched in honour of Mother of Two, Sue Blasotta, and it was set in self to the ambitious target of raising £1 million for brain tumour research by the year 2027.
Parliamentary call to reduce stakes gambled on betting shop machines. Calls to curb gaming machine stakes and increase powers over betting shops have been backed by an Enfield MP. A report reflects growing concern about the addictive nature of fixed odds betting terminals, which campaigners have called the crack cocaine of gambling. The machines allow punters to stake £100 every 20 seconds on electronic versions of casino games, such as roulette, in betting shops. An all-party parliamentary group investigating the machines has published results of the 6 months of evidence gathering. The report calls for a substantial reduction in the maximum stake which can be wagered and increased powers for local authorities to control betting shops. And Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows, who sat on the inquiry panel, is backing the moves. The ability to wager high stakes on high-speed machines only exacerbates the harm associated with gambling addiction, leading to greater losses, said Mr. Burrows. There's too much money being lost on these highly addictive machines. They should be properly regulated. The government will now consider the responses to a call for evidence on gaming machines, and the Department for Culture, Media and Sport is considering a review of the stake money and prizes. The parliamentary group heard from academics, problem gamblers, campaign groups and councils.
Cyclists stage silent die-in over safety. Cycling campaigners staged a die-in to protest the importance of better safety measures on the streets of London. Members of Better Streets for Enfield joined the protest organised by the Stop Killing Cyclists at Trafalgar Square on Saturday, February the 11th. The protest came less than a week after Anita Zooks was knocked down and killed while in Bouncers Road, Edmonton, near her Enfield home. Saturday's event included a 1-minute die-in, where cyclists lay sprawled on the road for 1 minute in silence to remember those who have been killed while on their bikes. Enfield resident Hal Haynes, who took part in Saturday's march, said, "This was not a spontaneous event in reaction to cyclists and 2 pedestrians who died last week in London. The die-in and a minute's silence is never supposed to be part of this plan, but I was grateful to be given the chance to pay my respects. It was lovely to be with so many like-minded people who feel as strongly about protecting cyclists. The Mini Holland, which is currently being built in Enfield, has divided opinion, while some saying the loss of parking spaces will kill business and cause more traffic on the road, others say the lanes are a much-needed mechanism to protect cyclists. Campaigner Claire Rogers, 44, said, "It is absolutely devastating. There has been so much grief in Enfield." And in an open letter to the community, freelance editor Mrs. Rogers wrote, "Enfield is blighted by car domination. Too many cars are used for too many journeys, and too many drivers have the mindset that they own the road. It isn't a surprise that we have one of London's lowest cycle model shares and one of its worst hit-and-run figures." The mother of two stressed, "More is needed in Enfield in order to stop cycling fatalities." She added, "It's a vicious circle which has created ingrained mindsets. My friends from other areas notice a difference in the drivers' behaviour in Enfield. We need to change this so that cycling becomes normal, a simple thing that everybody does. It baffles me that people are against more cycling infrastructure when studies show that cyclists spend more per head than drivers. Campaigners believe that by reducing car use, there will be less air pollution and roads will be safer for pedestrians and bike users alike. The pressure on local health services will also be eased as active residents live a healthier lifestyle."
Freed convict sent back to jail. A man has been sentenced to almost 7 years in jail for conspiracy to burgle, despite having been freed only 6 months before his new offence. Calvin Mackenzie of Station Road, New Southgate, was given a serious crime prevention order when he was released from jail in October 2015 for burglary and theft. The orders restrict the movements and activities of serious offenders. The 36-year-old appeared at St Albans Crown Court on the 20th of January in connection with a burglary at a home in St Albans last year, which breached the order. He was found guilty and jailed for 6 years for conspiracy to burgle and an additional 9 months for breaching the order. He will also be issued with a new 5-year order when this new sentence ends.
Don't be fooled by a roof scam. Rooftop con men have been tricking Enfield homeowners into forking out for work which does not need to be done. Enfield Council is investigating complaints from residents in Bush Hill Park, Winchmore Hill and Southgate, who have been approached by roofers and told their property needs more work carried out. Some have agreed, and as a result been conned out of thousands of pounds. Daniel Anderson, the council's cabinet member for environment, said, "We're urging people not to be fooled by this cruel scam. These charlatans start off by telling you your roof needs relatively cheap and then minor repairs, and then as soon as you agree, they invent fictitious problems and the bill escalates to thousands of pounds." A council spokesman added that residents who have doubts about advice on work being carried out should contact the police on 999 or Citizens Advice Bureau Consumer Advice on 03454 04 05 06, and they will contact Enfield Trading Standards.
And now on to some What's On. We've got some letters coming up and some comment as well.
Comedian doubles up for chicken shed's political play. Donald Trump may have been the president of the USA for only a month, but he has already sparked a great deal of controversy over his attempts to ban Muslims from entering the country and reversing climate change regulations introduced by former President Obama. The businessman is continually dominating our headlines, which might lead us to think he is equally omnipresent on the cultural scene. However, any similarity to actual current events in Chicken Shed's new show, Trumpets and Raspberries, is purely coincidental. Comedian Rob Crouch takes a double role in the Inclusive Theatre's latest production, playing both Italian political figure Gianni Agnelli, who is injured in a failed kidnap attempt, and Antonio, one of his employees, who tries to rescue him. Antonio flees the scene when people start shooting at him, leaving his jacket on Agnelli's body. The rich Agnelli is taken to hospital in Antonio's jacket, where he mistakenly has his face reconstructed in the poor Antonio's likeness, and finds himself the chief suspect in a kidnap plot against himself. The play will be the first major staging of the rarely seen work by Dario Fo, who is one of the key figures of European theatre and literature of the 20th and 21st centuries. Rob is familiar with playing iconic characters and recently finished touring the sellout play Oliver Reed, Wild Thing, where he played the legendary womanising actor who is known for his role as Bill Sikes in the 1968 musical Oliver. Rob also worked with Ricky Gervais 2 years ago in the television show Gallivant, which aired on the American network ABC, but is now treading the boards playing the 2 lead characters in director Lou Stein's latest work. The 45-year-old explains why the show will not be what people expect, and how the audience will be surprised when he enters the stage wearing a gorilla suit. Rob says, "It is a very specialised show, but essentially the themes are about money and political power. We talked a lot about Trump when we were rehearsing, so I imagine he may be the person that springs to everyone else's minds, but when they watch the show too. But it is about the Italian political figure, Gianni Agnelli, and is written in a broad and farcical style. I would say the show is aimed at people aged at least 14 years old, but it does appeal to everyone and has been a challenging part to take on. Lou Stein is the reason I wanted to get involved in the show, as I've known him for a number of years and I was always aware of the wonderful Chicken Shed and I like their work. After growing up in Buckhurst Hill in Essex, Rob studied theatre arts at Goldsmith University in New Cross, but admits comedy was something he just drifted into. He explains, "Comedy is easier to break into rather than drama, as serious stuff is more difficult. I began by making sketches and podcasts and went on to YouTube, and it all sort of developed from there, and as I started doing comedy shows around London. These days, in the age of social media and the internet, you just cannot expect people to call you and instantly give you a show. You do have to put yourself out there." Dividing his time between acting and looking after his 17-month-old daughter, he has no plans to slow down. He says, "I will do anything in terms of my acting. I see myself as a jobbing actor and an all-rounder, which keeps it exciting. Working with Ricky Gervais was certainly interesting. I worked with him on one episode of Gallivant, so we didn't become great buddies. On set, he is just what you expect, very warm and friendly, and knows how to make you feel comfortable. I've got another show called Trolling coming up next, which will look at bullying online and will be quite dark, so it will be something very new to me and a new adventure as well."
Now, a comment from Montague, Vice President and Forum. When the Times headlines an editorial, "No Country for the Old, the state of social care in Britain is a disgrace," adding that the government needs to find more money to stop the system collapsing, you can bet it's responding to nationwide pressure to solve this mounting crisis. Excuse me. I can't help thinking that ministers are spending all their time on the fallout from Brexit, watching Mr. Trump's every move, wondering what he'll say or do next. They've taken their eye off the ball, leaving councils, care homes and the frail elderly people to grapple with the consequences of that dreaded combination, old age and ill health. That was until Tuesday last week, when I heard David Hodge, the Surrey County Council leader, withdraw his referendum plans for a 15% council tax increase, boasting that the government had listened to his plea for more money to meet Surrey's gap in social care funding. Come last Wednesday, and anyone watching Prime Minister's Questions would have heard that a dodgy deal had been done to stop Surrey's referendum, with the council accepting a memoranda of understanding sent by the Department of Communities and Local Government. The conclusion I draw from these unsavoury shenanigans is that we'll have to shout loud, long and clear to make our voices heard if we want fair funding deal for Enfield and equality with Surrey. You can help by simply signing the all-party petition online at Fairer Funding, or sign at any library.
And here's a letter by Councillor Vicky Pite of Chase Ward, the Associate Cabinet Member of North Enfield, And she writes after the frustrating and heart-achingly tragic news of last week, asks the question, do you really need to take that car journey? Drivers have been temporarily exasperated by congestion due to essential roadworks for the new hospital at Chase Farm. And I would argue, she says, equally essential installation of cycle lanes in Palmer's Green and Winchmore Hill. 3 London families and friends have been left permanently heartbroken at the loss of loved ones in the prime of their life while cycling home, one of them a young woman from Enfield. Cycling and walking as modes of transport are free, healthy and clean, but sometimes life-threateningly hazardous. Unnecessary motorised journeys are polluting, climate-changing, diabetes and obesity inducing and NHS exhausting blights on our lives. The West Midlands Police explain that drivers are trusted with ultimate responsibility of piloting motor vehicles which can, pitilessly, damage the frail human form. Let's be clear. Transport for London data tells us that 30% of car trips in Enfield are less than 2 kilometres long, perfectly walkable. The average daily Enfield car trip is under 8 kilometres and almost 60% of car journeys are less than 5 kilometres, a gentle cycle ride. The council, the police and Transport for London can do their best to combat reckless drivers, such as the boy racers along the A10 doing upwards of 100 miles per hour, and we can all do our bit by questioning whether the car journey we are about to take is truly necessary. If you're in traffic and irritated, please remember that you are the traffic. Make the sensible, considerate choice to leave the car at home if you can, and if you need your car, be patient with initiatives like Cycle Enfield. It's designed to make life better for everyone.
Let's work together to dispel epilepsy myths. This is a letter from Amy Hesselden, fundraising officer for Epilepsy Action. I'm writing to ask your readers to turn their world purple for epilepsy this Purple Day. Purple Day, the International Day of Epilepsy Awareness, falls on Sunday the 26th of March. It's the one day of the year when people across the globe work together to dispel the myths that surround epilepsy by raising awareness in a positive way. Epilepsy Action would love you to get involved. There are around 81,000 people in Greater London living with epilepsy. Every year, the money raised for Epilepsy Action on Purple Day helps us continue our life-changing work. Whether it's dyeing your hair purple, munching on purple cakes, or throwing a purple ball, there are so many ways to get in the purple spirit and celebrate epilepsy awareness. Getting involved couldn't be simpler. Visit our website, epilepsy.org.uk, or call 0113 210 8851 to request a free purple fundraising pack. The pack contains everything you need to make your fundraising a success, from hints and tips to purple balloons. You can also buy Purple Day wristbands to show your support. Epilepsy Action directly supports more than 2 million people every year with a network of support groups and a helpline staffed by experts. The money we raise on Purple Day will mean we can help even more. You can find out more and get support at epilepsy.org.uk or call 0800 800 5050.
And here's a few items of what's on in the local area. On Wednesday, there's Tales from Enfield History at Forty Hall, Enfield, and it's at 7 p.m. Delve into the history of markets and fairs across the borough, and tickets are £5, and if you wish to book, you can find them on www.fortyhallsestate.co.uk/020 or simply pick up the phone on 8363 8196. Also on Wednesday and Thursday, we have Hamlet at the Millfield Theatre in Silver Street, Edmonton. It's 7:30 p.m. on both days, and there's a matinee performance at 1:15 on the Thursday. It's Shakespeare's tragedy, and it's presented by the Icarus Theatre Collective for the Game of Thrones generation. And tickets are £16, £14 concession, and their box office number is 0208 807 6680. And if you don't want that at the Millfield Theatre, pop along to the Dugdale Centre on Thursday, where you'll hear Ziggy's World Jazz Club presenting Ian Shaw and the Steve Taylor Trio. Shaw is a Best Jazz Vocalist at the BBC Jazz Awards in 2007 and has amassed a number of highly acclaimed albums, popular and renowned performer in the UK and in America. And tickets are £15.50 and their box office number is 0208 807 6680.
And before the sport, some news in brief now, and MP buzzing after power station visit. An MP proved she was a bright spark when speaking about pollution during a visit to a power plant. Enfield North representative Joan Ryan MP was given a full tour of the Uniper power station in Enfield last Tuesday. Staff at the Brancroft Way site discussed how they use the latest technology to tackle air pollution and support the transition to a low-carbon society. Miss Ryan said, air pollution is one of our borough's and London's biggest problems, so it's important to meet energy providers who are reducing pollutants and emissions into the atmosphere.
And finally, a rather sad tale: man dies in car crash. A man has died after a car crashed into a lorry in the early hours of Saturday morning. This happened on the A406 North Circular, which was closed westbound between the A1010 and A10 junctions in Edmonton until around 9:30 a.m. on February the 11th, after the car crashed into a stationary lorry there at 2 a.m. in the morning. Police were called to the crash scene at the North Circular junction with Bull Lane, along with a London ambulance service, and the man was pronounced dead on the scene, but no one else was injured. His next of kin have not been made aware because investigations are still ongoing and no arrests have been made. Olympic bronze medalist makes strong comeback after injury. Robbie Grabbars was delighted with his second-place finish in the high jump at the British Indoor Trials in Sheffield at the weekend after he ruptured his appendix just 4 weeks ago. It was the Enfield-born athlete's first event since the injury, and the London 2012 bronze medalist jumped 2.25 metres to finish behind Scotland's Alan Smith on countback. Unfortunately for the 29-year-old, he narrowly missed out on a medal at Rio 2016, finishing 4th overall in the event, but did manage a silver at the World Indoor Championships in Portland. I was getting ready to compete 5 weeks ago and my appendix ruptured on Saturday afternoon after training, said Grabbars when speaking to The Guardian. So I had to go into hospital to have it removed, spent 2 weeks in bed, did a week of training to make sure I was healthy, and then threw caution to the wind and jumped back into training. It didn't hurt too much. If it did, I would have gone on holiday, but I thought, let's just compete and see what happens. The London medalist is no stranger to injuries after having suffered a few in recent years, but the athlete still has high hopes of being selected for the European Indoor Championships in Belgrade next month. Grabbars said, "The recovery has been just 5 weeks, and I'm not quite right, but I'm not far off." Well, we've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the mini team of me and Philip, it's
goodbye.
Bye. Oh, I forgot to say, Philip is still on the controls. Now,
Just
please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, the memory stick into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper, and that's on 0208 805 6578. Now, coming up next is the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.